might have bought a house and filed for a tax credit in 2008 up to $8,000. First, you had to be sure you qualified. You had to show proof and everything like that. So they started the tax credit in 2008. They did that because the economy, housing market was just crashing. So they were trying to offer the incentive for people to buy more homes. And they were still offering it even recently. But it had to be done before May 1st of 2010. Now that program is finished, but they postponed the end date until June 30th of 2010. Why they did that was because many people had lost their homes to foreclosure. And so they were being sold below the actual value of the house. So they postponed it because of that for people who qualified. The tax credit was for first-time buyers, and then if you were buying to move. So first-time buyers could get up to $8,000, a 10% credit, if you hadn't owned a home for up to 3 years before. If you were buying a house again, and you were living in the house and it had been over 5 years straight, like for example last year in 2000, let's say 2002 to 2010, so you lived in the house maybe from 2004 to 2009, and then you sold it, and then you were going to buy a house in 2010, you would qualify. Or if somebody died, then you would qualify. And it was up to 10%. It was 10% up to $6,500. So it had to be under $8,000, or if it was under $25,000, if you were married, interpreter correction, $2,025. So then before 2009, they checked better. And once it was all said and done, you got your tax return in 2008, and people are now having to pay it back because they actually took the credit, but it was actually a loan, a 15-year loan that you had to pay. So after 2 years they've started. So now in 2010 people are having to pay it back. H&R Block had thousands of people that had applied for that tax credit in 2008, and now they're going to have to pay it back. The tax credit was up to $7,500. And now that money has to be paid back, up to $500 a year for 5 years. And if people sell the home, they have to pay it back all in one chunk. They can't pay $500 a year. If you've lived there for 3 years, then it doesn't matter. You don't have to pay it back. But if you sold it before the 3 years, you do have to pay it back. I mean, maybe you didn't profit from the house and you shouldn't have to, but now they're requiring it. If you filled everything out and you want that tax credit, you have to prove it. They're going through, and you cannot do it through the computer. You cannot e-file. You have to send in the tax return. There was thousands of people that cheated on their taxes before. There was like 1,300 people who cheated on their taxes and ended up going to jail over it. It was crazy. And people end up getting a settlement. Most people did the HDR1 and they closed it. So they didn't actually have to sign it if it was an electronic file, but they actually wanted a real signature for this, hence why you had to mail it in. And you had to have like a certification of the county, like your name, the house address where you're living. And then again, if you bought the house, you have to have the paperwork to prove that you own the home and that you've lived there 5 years straight. So that you couldn't just skate around it. You actually had to provide the truth, provide the proof for the taxes. And you had to show that you paid the insurance for 5 years. So November and then on and on. I mean, you had to show that 5 full years. If you did it through through the computer, you e-filed, it's much faster, but it's less than 2 weeks till you get your return. But the paper mail, filing that way takes a long time. It's like 6 weeks or so. But the IRS does a lot more inspection with the paper tax return. So you have to be patient. But you really got to make sure that you understand everything with that tax credit, because that can be pretty serious.